There's a call comes ringing o'er the restless waves. Send the light, send the light, send the light, send the light. There are souls to rescue, there are souls to save. Send the light, send the light, send the light, send the light. We will spread the everlasting light with the wind, giving heart and hand, giving God the glory evermore. We will follow His command.
Hello viewers, thank you so much for joining us for this program. My name is Dr. Elizabeth Wangare. I'm a clinical psychologist by profession. Now, in the last program, we introduced the topic of mental health and spirituality. And we went through a couple of information or a couple of issues with regards to understanding ourselves. And we began by looking at a holistic perspective of what goes to make you who you are. And we talked briefly about the components of spirituality, emotional, physical, and then the mental, psychological, or the mind. And we went a step further to try and narrow now down to the mind, because that's my background and that's what I have been trained to understand a lot more of. And I went briefly into how your mind develops, and also to help you understand or gain understanding that part of who you are or how you think and the way your mind develops is influenced a lot by what happened or transpired in your early childhood. Where we stopped at, we said that we would begin by talking about how do we take care of our minds then, and what are some of the tools or what are some of the things that we can do to ensure that we are in the right frame of mind. In the pandemic times, this space, it's very fragile, it's very shaky, and as a result, it's going to have a huge impact on how our minds function. And so how then do we make sure that we're able to cope effectively so that we're able to survive this space and come out of the other side? We know nothing in life lasts forever. Nothing is permanent. Everything is transient. Everything is passing. Okay? But we want to make sure that even when we are in the turbulence, and even when we're going through this space, we don't lose ourselves, so that when this space is over or when this time frame is over and we come out on the other side, we don't have regrets. We haven't participated in destroying ourselves, in destroying each other, in destroying the environment, and so on and so forth. What are some of the things that we can do to ensure that we survive this? Okay? And so for this specific episode, I want to dig or to dwell a little bit more on the tips and tools that we can use to ensure that we take care of our minds. One of the things that you find a lot of people battle with in this space, you hear a lot of people talking about being depressed, feeling like they're tired of living. They want to get out of this life. You hear a lot of people complaining of others being very angry, not knowing how to manage their anger, or others also speaking of agitated and irritated and wanting to jump and destroy others because of that emotions, right? And some people are also talking about feeling very stressed. These are some of the terminologies that we talk about, and we will try and see how do we cope with this. Like we talked about in the last episode, we said that indeed this space has presented with us challenges. For example, some of us, probably businesses that were established by our fathers, they were handed down to us, have closed down. Some of us have lost our jobs, so we have no means of taking care of ourselves, our families. Some of us have had to take pay cuts. The cost of living is going up. yet the finances are not improving. That's the reality for a majority of us. These are real threats, and of course, they have an impact on the state of our minds. Okay? And so the question becomes, because the nature of what is going on is beyond our ability to control. In fact, we don't even have control over that. But how do we then make sure that even if we don't have control, yet we are still able to remain functional? We are still able to survive, okay? And in order to do that, it means that we must be able to have a hold, or to be able to regulate our minds appropriately. We must be able to take care of our minds in a way that ensures that we don't do things that are self-destructive. And like I said in the last episode, before even the whole pandemic situation and the way things are going right now, you see, it's not that we didn't have challenges and things like that. But again, at least in that space, we kind of felt like we had a bit of control. But with this pandemic situation, it seems like we don't have a lot of control. Okay? And so that is what makes it a bit unique to what we have experienced in the past. And based on what we used, for example, in the past to deal with stressful situations. For example, some people, maybe they used to escape by traveling, okay? If, say, for example, things are not working out well at home, maybe you could stay away from the home and that kind of thing. You had even maybe the money to be able to do that. Other people, what they used to do, for example, maybe as a way of coping, you could stay out in the pubs and in the clubs, okay? There were plenty of establishments that function up until late hours. So maybe by the time you're getting home, everybody is asleep, or you don't have to be accountable to anybody. But you see, now that has changed. That has been disrupted. So a lot of maybe coping mechanisms that we used to employ at this time are no longer functional, okay? And maybe also another thing is that with some people, we never used to be at home a lot. But right now, a lot of people have had to readjust, because you have to learn how to work from home and, you know, be with your family. And of course, when you're away from your home, for whatever reason, if most of the time or the number of hours when you're away is more than when you are together, how you relate, or the way you relate with those that you live in the same space with, is definitely going to be impacted. Okay? When you're around each other, or when you're around your family or the people you stay with, of course, you learn to come up with a mechanism or a way of understanding each other, because as long as we are all different, there's things that we will not be able to agree with about each other. There's bound to be conflict, but the more you stay with each other, the more you learn how to manage or to resolve your conflicts. You come up with rules and you come up with mechanisms to do that. But if you don't spend a lot of time together, then this becomes a challenge. You operate on a lot of assumptions. Some people talk of the ego. It's about me, 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 me. Everything must be about me, you know. You lose that touch of knowing how to relate with people. And perhaps part of the violence, I believe, could be triggered by the virtue or the fact that we've not been around each other, and therefore have not developed tools or have not developed mechanism to resolve issues, to agree to disagree, because we can't always see eye to eye, okay? But we can learn a respectful way of being with each other, or not necessarily agreeing with each other, okay? And so what this space is forcing a lot of us to do, while before the major way of dealing with our issue has been to escape reality. Now we are being forced, or we are being faced with that reality. There's some famous psychologists who used to say that when we talk about depression, or when we're talking about I'm depressed, what essentially we are saying is that we are constantly remunerating on maybe things that happened in the past, probably things that may have been done to us, or regrets, maybe because of the choices that we did in the past. Okay, like for example, if say you're having financial issues, if you're constantly thinking about that time you had so much money, or you made a lot of money, and then you made poor money decisions, you gave it all away, you didn't invest it wisely, you're constantly staying in that is definitely going to affect your mood. You're going to make you depressed. Okay, and it makes sense to think that your brain going back to that place, to think about some of the things perhaps that you did that were poor choices and things like that. At that point, when your brain or your mind is thinking about that kind of thing, it makes sense, because you're thinking that perhaps if I go there and beat myself, then it will resolve, or it will fix the mess that I am in at the moment. Of course, we know that doesn't work, or it can't work. The only thing that it manages to do is to paralyze you, to shut you down, because that's what depression is. It's shutting everything down, okay? Because you're in a state of hopelessness. You've lost faith in a lot of things, in your abilities, in your capabilities, okay? And you're just existing. You're not even alive. You just, yes, you might have life in you because of the biological angle. You're still breathing in the air and that kind of thing. But as far as experiencing life, that has shut down, and that's why we talk about depression. Okay, and therefore, because of how the situation is, part of the reason why you're revisiting or finding yourself going back to the past and looking at some of the choices or decisions that you've made, and some of the things that are not too colorful or are not shining a good light on you, part of the reason why you are doing that is because life again also has been slowed down. And when things slow down, you're forced to pay attention. Well, before, when you're busy, your mind is always constantly thinking about the next thing. So your mind is very engaged. You're having a lot of things that are running through your head and that kind of thing. So in that state, of course, you have no time to sit down and evaluate and do that kind of thing. And that's why Erik Erikson, who came up with this theory, basically what his theory is about, he's looking at the different stages of development and what the task is for each of those stages. And the final stage, that is in late adulthood or elderly, or what we talk about as our grandparents, and he talks about generativity versus isolation. And in essence, in that stage, physically, you don't have a lot of energy. As you grow older, in terms of what you can be able to accomplish or what you can be able to do, that goes on decreasing and decreasing and decreasing. And what Erikson said is that at that stage, based on how you lived your life, because you see now you've been slowed down, and of course because of things that are beyond your control, if you lived your life well, if you invested well in terms of not just financially, but also human capital. How did you invest in your family? How did you take care of your family? What did you do when you had energy? Okay, because in your old age, if you invested in your family, they will take care of you. Okay, you will have people coming to you to consult with you, engage you. You will have, if it's your children, your grandchildren coming around you to keep you company. You'll have a lot of other younger people coming to seek your counsel. Okay, and of course you have so much to tell and so much to educate and guide and that kind of thing. However, if you didn't invest well, or you didn't live your life well, you didn't build good relationships, if you neglected your family, if you were the kind of person who you're the only one who should be listened to, or you're the one who commands everything, you're the only one who should be listened to, of course that tends to drive people away. And when now in this stage, if you didn't invest well in people, of course you find yourself alone. You find yourself, nobody wants to be near you. You are neglected, and of course that is going to affect who you are. And I'm using that to tell us sometimes, even while they say there's a biological explanation to depression, however, we also know that how you live your life, the way you relate with people, how you interact with your environment every single day, okay? How you interact with people, how you interact with the environment when you are at a weakest is going to determine how you're going to survive that, how people are going to come through for you. And right now, if you're being forced perhaps, or you're finding yourself thinking a lot about maybe the choices that you've made that have not been very helpful, that have not been the best, okay? How about at this time, take stock of that, okay? And make amends. Make amends about some of the things that you have done that maybe have been destructive, that have been disruptive, yeah? Because part of how you can even be able to rise above or recover from some of this depressive state, some of it, I'm not saying this is the only way, but some of it could be by trying to make amends of some of the things that you might have done that might have not been in your best interest and in the interest of other people. So making amends, okay? And one of the emotions that I know that tends to come a lot, or we tend to be very ill-equipped to handle, and more so especially when we are undergoing a lot of pressure, is anger. And I can tell you a lot of, if you even visit prisons and you do an interview of all the people who are there, of course you have others who are there for one reason or the other, but you will find that a lot of people are in there because of a decision or a choice they made out of anger. Anger is an emotion that we all experience, and it's not necessarily a bad emotion. It's not necessarily bad. Everything that happens in life comes in duality. There's the good of it and there's the bad of it. Anger is the emotion that triggers us, because anger comes up as a result of feeling or perceiving that there's an injustice that has been done. Some of the freedoms that we have gained, it's because they were triggered by anger, and the anger is what made people organize and decide to fight for their rights, okay? So you see, that is a useful way, or that's in one aspect where anger is useful. However, on the extreme end, if you don't know how to regulate yourself, and more so especially depending on how you've been living your life or the way you conduct yourself, if you're the kind of person who is used to having your way, or you think that the world revolves around you, or things must always go the way you want, or you feel like I have sacrificed so much and the world owes me. Now, if anger comes up in you, and that is the thought process that you're having, of course, you're going to do something to try and demand that people do things according to your bidding. And if you use anger that way, you're very likely to do something that is very destructive, and not just to people around you, but also to yourself. Because if you're the kind of person, for example, who gets highly irritable or gets triggered really easily, and you're the kind of person who doesn't even know how to measure the way you express yourself or the words that you tell to people, you will find people will tend to isolate themselves from you. Yeah, and in that sense, when you find that people will only associate with you because there's something that they're going to gain, or they're going to gain from you, and therefore when you need them to come through for you when you're at your lowest, nobody will come through for you, of course, because of how you treat them and how you react to them. Therefore, this is one emotion that you must learn how to handle. And sometimes you need somebody to walk with you. You need to sit down with somebody and go back, because sometimes you find that, especially with that anger that is highly destructive, most likely you're not even reacting to that specific situation. Yeah, you're reacting to something that happened some other time. You know, that anger that is very vindictive, you know, that you want to see somebody crushed and that kind of thing. For example, where you're having a lot of these issues where either the boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband is killing their spouse. Of course, that is anger, and that anger is not just because of one event. This is something that has been accumulated, and in this space, it's very easy to trigger. While in the past, perhaps because the environment was not as sensitive as it is, so you could be able to push some things in the back. Now, you're not able to do that. So you find that you're not able to regulate yourself, and so you act out of these emotions. And therefore, this is one of the things that I recommend, that it's very, very important in this space. I highly, highly, highly recommend that you need to seek the counsel of somebody. And especially if you find yourself, you're constantly irritable, you're constantly thinking about negative things, finding yourself battling with thoughts of, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, okay? Because part of why also, if I was to say, when you react so violently or you're having this kind of outbursts, some of that also is usually coming from a point of inadequacy, okay? And of course, that inadequacy, it comes from somewhere else, something that was done to you, a place or point in time in your life where maybe you are made to feel like you're not human enough, you are dehumanized in one form or the other, and that is something that you need to sit down with somebody and unpack, process it. Yeah. So when we want to understand how the mind works or how to regulate yourself, you must realize that you just don't wake up one day and you find yourself to be a certain way. Every single day, every choice you're making, every encounter that you're having is going into shaping your mind, how you think and the way you perceive reality. And therefore, to get to where you are, to get to the person you are, and to even get to the way you look at things, the way you process things, it's as a result of so many events, okay? It's not just one event, okay? How you're reacting or how you are dealing with this whole pandemic situation and all the things that are coming up, if it's the business that is affected, you're finding like you're having a lot more conflict even in your relationship and these kinds of things, it's not just about this space. How you have been up until the age that you are goes into bringing out or speaking to the way you are dealing and processing things in this specific time space, okay? And so that is why we say, even in psychology, we say that the person you are didn't take you one day to get to where you are. And based on your age, you have gone through a series of events, okay? And there's a lot of other dynamics that are at play, okay? And those all go to shape who you are. And therefore, if we are to heal or to repair ourselves, we must examine and go back to, based on how we've lived, on the far we have come, where did injuries occur? Go back to those specific places and try and address them and try and unpack, okay? And it's in doing so then we are able to gain a new perspective and we are able to move forward. And that's part of the work that we do as counselors, as therapists or psychologists, whichever name you want to use. Yeah? That's what we do, you know. And you find that it's in going back into the past, unpacking and gaining a new perspective over those situations, that now we are able to start over, okay, and to move forward and in a more healthy and in a more holistic or better version of ourselves, and move past some of the hurts or some of the injuries that we have caused because of also having been injured. You know, we say that hurt people, okay? And so we must find our ways to move past those hurts, and so that we're able to relate with other people in a much more healthy and impactful manner. And so, as I wind up, let me say that there's nothing that is beyond repair. There's nothing that is beyond repair, because the moment that you learn about part of why you behave the way you do, or part of why you are the way you are, you gain a new perspective. And with new information, of course, it's just common sense to want to do better. Sometimes we act from a point of ignorance, right? But when we know better, we do better. And you remember, we talked about the verse in the Bible that says that people perish for lack of knowledge. And so we seek information, we seek knowledge, because it's in having knowledge that we are able to have better tools to make better choices and decisions in our life. So we continue in the next episode from there. Thank you.